Ace, let's start this thing. Hey, first of all, thank you all for your patience. We had some troubles getting everything working, but we're here. So I talk fast, so that helps getting through the whole topic. Bear with me. If I go too fast, let me know. I cannot see the chat. That's the only issue that I have with Zoom. I cannot see the chat. So the moderators need to inform me on that one. So in short, my name is Mark Deubel, and I'm a little bit of a different recruiter. Before I went to recruitment about 5 years ago, I spent around 20 years in engineering. So as an engineer, I went through all the levels from IC to director, giving me the chance to experience a lot of engineering organizations. So that gives me a little bit of a different view on recruitment. But it also gave me the opportunity to experience recruiters, a lot of recruiters. If you're in tech, especially, you get spammed by a lot of recruiters. So you get used to it, that a typical candidate of yours, if they're in tech, has about 2 outreaches a day. And that's not even a lot. That's quite normal. So I experienced those outreaches, and you might not like to hear this, but I hated recruiters in the beginning. And to be honest, I only met a handful of good ones during that 20 years. So we're going to talk a little bit about what was wrong. I'm going to give you examples. I'm going to show you examples, thankfully, because it's working. But I didn't like him, so why did I become a recruiter? Well, I like to connect with people. I like to help people, and I like to help people getting a job. I used to build teams, but it was not my sole profession, right? I was an engineer first. So my step into recruitment was a long story. I'll tell you separately if you want to hear it. But it was a tough decision as well, because I was joining the people that I didn't really like at that moment. So the issue is, why didn't I like recruiters, and why do we have such a bad name? Why did I block them? Why did I turn away from LinkedIn at a certain moment? Well, because most of the messages, most of the outreach that we as recruiters send are quite terrible. And some of the screen calls or interviews were as well. They were not aimed as me as a person. They didn't approach me for the right job.
Intern ook wel.
Martin, can you please mute your thank you very much. And there are so many things that at that time annoyed me. So since I became a recruiter, my main goal is to help recruiters and sources become people that both candidate and hiring manager like and respect. I don't pretend that you don't know that recruiters have a bad name out there. That's why I really try to help here and there, but thankfully there are a lot of good recruiters. The issue with it is that the bad ones get remembered and the good ones don't. So, like I said, I mentioned, I met a lot of good recruiters that taught me a lot of stuff about recruitment, because I understand outreach, but recruitment was a different thing. In this session, like I said, we'll dive into reaching out to prospects, but through the eyes of an engineer. So as a candidate, I will try and make you think about how you're doing it right now and how you can elevate your outreach skills. So I do hope you get some added value from this session. Yeah, if everything works, yes. So these are not messages that I singled out because they're bad. These messages represent 95% of the messages engineers and I get. I've added one that was sent to me, as it was a nice example of a spray and pray message. But the only thing that I left out in these messages are, of course, the greetings. I want to do it anonymous. There's no use for name sharing. So if you look from left to right, you will see that they all have a common theme. There's no information except the job and location, or there's no information about the role, or why me. And also it's the wrong job, or it's very generic and not personal at all. So what a lot of people are experiencing is unpersonal, spammy messages, and they don't get responses. If I send these messages to an engineer, I won't get a response. So the recruiter actually wasted time by sending them, and the person reading them, well, they do 2 things. 1, they never want to contact you, and 2, it goes to the spam folder, or it goes to the trash folder. Now, the trash folder is okay, but the spam folder means that you will never be able to reach out to them anymore. So we have to be careful with how we reach out. Imagine you get these messages all the time, every day. What would you think about recruiters in general at that moment? That doesn't really look great, right? So I'm going to try and help you. And I think most of you already know what I'm going to say. But we just have to practice it a little bit more. So how do you reach out in a good way? Let's start with this. Writing good outreach to people in tech, especially in software engineering, is basically your one chance to make an actual direct connection. And why is it so hard to get a response from those people, right? Well, you're not the only one that's reaching out to them. So every time you reach out, imagine 10 other recruiters or 20 other recruiters reaching out as well. They're getting spammed every week. And if not every day, and the ones that have the best outreach, they win. Sometimes it's the company name, but often it's the best outreach, because the first impression you have is from the person, not so much the company. So to write good outreach, you'll need to understand what makes them tick, right? What makes a person respond. Well, there's no trick to it. And it's even quite hard to see what makes a specific person tick, unless it's somewhere on the profile. So we're going to talk a lot about reading versus scanning. But a lot of people put current information in the profile. Doesn't matter if it's on LinkedIn or any other platform like Twitch or YouTube. People treat them a lot of the times as resumes instead of a marketing tool for themselves. So it's really hard to find out what actually drives a person. And without that knowledge, it's quite hard to write perfect outreach, right? So instead of making it too specific, which isn't really possible because you're lacking the right information, you have to look at the generic things that motivate people and ask what motivates them. Don't assume, ask things. And this is actually easier than you might think or are led to believe, because there are a lot of people that give you courses on outreach. It might help, but common sense and some writing skills can help you a lot. There are no secrets. There are no magical ways, no hidden backdoors or anything like that. Outreach is a mix of understanding what you're looking for, writing skills, and common sense. So this might sound weird, but prospects, people that we're looking for, have personal goals, professional goals. They have skills, they have needs, they have wishes. They are human. So you might think, I know that. You don't have to tell me that. But I can challenge you. If we would treat prospects and candidates as human, we wouldn't be sending them templates, right? We wouldn't be ghosting them or letting them wait too long. We wouldn't even have a bad name out there. So how do you solve it? Well, we treat people like humans. If you go to a bar, the bartender is not going to tell you, hi there, these are the drinks that we all have. The bartender is going to ask you, what do you want? And it's time that we as recruiters switch that conversation to, we've got this for you, into, hey, I'm interested in you. What do you want? So it starts with outreach, and your outreach should be similar in the way you would like to be approached, plus a lot more. So why a lot more? Let's call it occupational hazard. You've been trained as a recruiter. You probably have been taught how to do outreach. You've seen other people doing outreach. And to be honest, you create a certain style and then it creeps in. Let's call it a sort of professional deformation, where your brain expects and accepts those rather empty messages when they're sent to you. It's a reason why I stay close to my audience. So in my case, engineers, I actually talk to them a lot. I ask them to share messages they get from recruiters, because I want to learn from all those great messages and all those terrible messages, because mindsets of people change. Every year, people look differently at communication. So I want to make sure that I'm on top of my game and understand what my audience really wants. I can assume because I've been that audience for a while, but it's been a while ago and it creeps in with me as well. So I'm constantly talking to the people that I hired, the people that I work with. Hey, what kind of messages do you get? And I actually have a few partners in crime that constantly send me the outreach that they're getting. And it really helps you staying on your seat, basically, and understanding where you're going. So as a first practical tip, I really urge you to ask your hiring team about their experience. Reach out to some of your new hires today. Ask them to send you some of the emails or emails they get from other recruiters. You will be so surprised about the quality. And like I said, this talk is about that little bit more, how to get that perfect outreach. And that warning to, and I have a little warning for you. because you might not like this, but it's going to be a lot of manual work. It's not so easy to automate. If you want to have really good outreach, it's manual labor. You have to do something for it. It's not going to be super easy, and it's not really easy to automate this. So to create better outreach with better results, we're going to dive into a few things. Buzzword bingo, so understanding what you're talking about, reading versus scanning, communication and culture, because that's super important. And a lot of people forget that one, especially when you're working globally. And then it's all about them, not you. So it's all about the candidate, the prospect. It's not about you or the company. And we're going to finish a little bit off with, if it smells one, it probably is one. And that's all about the templates. Oh, we go a little bit too far. Buzzword bingo is the one thing that people are allergic to. And I think recruiters as well, because it's the part where candidates and recruiters are failing a lot of the time. When you talk to a candidate and you notice that they're just using buzzwords and not really understanding them, are you going to push them forward to your hiring manager? The same thing happens when you reach out. The candidate is like, oh, this person is using the buzzwords incorrectly, so they won't respond back. So where does this go wrong, right? Where are we making this mistake? Well, I call it the DDR of buzzwords. When I was the interviewer for a technical recruiter for the first time, I was really surprised, not just a bit. I spoke to about 30 people that the recruiter managing the role sent to me. And to be honest, resumes looked really promising. They performed well in the first screening call. However, only one person made it to the next round. So what went wrong? Well, among other stuff, it was mostly because of the candidates using buzzwords without getting the context, without understanding the buzzwords. Now imagine how candidates that are experts in these fields feel when you approach them with the wrong info. So my friends and colleagues in the engineering world experience it like this. I get approached for the wrong job because they did not read my profile correctly and have no clue what they're looking for. It's buzzword bingo. So let's look at the issues that we often encounter. The first one is the definitions. So while candidates were able to tell me what something was or did, they could not tell me how it was used. For instance, the term Devops. It's a term in IT that's very popular and often wrongly used. When I ask people to tell me what makes a good cloud or full stack engineer, for instance, the first thing they mention is, well, they need to have DevOps. But when I ask them why, it's often silent. And it's very simple. When I ask them why, they don't have the deeper understanding of DevOps, because DevOps is a philosophy. It's not a job. It's a mindset. It's not a hard skill. Now, I'm a recruiter, and although I'm an ex-engineer, this was not my main domain. So when I see a hole in this logic, so does a candidate. So trust me, candidates do test you. They do want to see if you actually know what you're talking about. Now, another thing we often do is, and this happened with me in those interviews as well, and this will happen in your outreach as well, is sometimes skills sound like each other, and they feel like they're doing the same thing, but they aren't. So one of the best examples is the Java versus JavaScript thing. So some recruiters still don't know that they have nothing to do with each other, as their style is different and the application is different. Others know they're the same, but they sometimes joke about people mistaking them for each other, but they actually don't really know the difference, the actual difference between them. And then there are those that understand and often don't make fun of it. It becomes an issue when you reach out to a prospect for the wrong job. So in your outreach, it already starts with the sourcing part. When you're sourcing and you don't understand the skills that you need, it gets hard to write that outreach. And sometimes people have skills listed on the resume, but when reading and actually reading their profile or the projects on whatever platform you use, like GitHub, you will actually see that they use these skills in a very different way than you're looking for. So imagine a developer. You can create from scratch as a developer. You can only read because you're a software engineer that basically does support and they don't really write anymore. You can work on iterations only, never have built from scratch. So which person are you actually attracting? Which person are you talking to? It really depends on what your team needs and what the person has done. So read that profile. And then there's the relation between skills. So some skills are complementary. Some are exactly the same, but have a different name. And some are competitive with each other and often transferable. So this is the most complicated of the three, but this is also where you can shine as a recruiter. If you are looking for a certain skill, it's always good to check what the other skill is and if it's transferable or used within the skill. So for instance, you're looking for a software engineer that's working on React, and it doesn't really matter what it does for this example. Now, often React is used with Redux. So this knowledge already creates a question for you in your outreach. Hey, our team is working with React in combination with Redux. Now, I don't know if you ever worked with Redux before, but this is why we're using it. And now you're making it interesting. This is why we're using it. But you're also showing that you actually understand the relation between the tool tags. So if tools are complementary, use it in your outreach, but make sure that it's correct. In some cases, you reach out to people that have one of the two skills. You can almost assume they have the other, but it's just not listed. Always check that. If tech things or skills are competitive with each other, it means often that they're transferable as well. So for instance, cloud providers, if a person is an expert in Google Cloud, but you're looking for Microsoft Azure, don't skip them. You should know that under the hood, there's not much difference. So the chances that this person will ramp up really quick on Azure, it will be perfect. You can actually mention that in your outreach. You can actually say, hey, listen, I know you're an expert on this field. We're using this. I have a feeling that you will really ramp up soon because under the hood, it's the same. And at that moment, you're already showing that one, you think longer about things, you think better about things, and you understand what you're talking about, even if it's just high level. It's just first impression that you understand something that's going to help you. So why do we want to know all of this if you don't understand what you're looking for? And it starts with sourcing, right? Outreach starts with sourcing. If you don't know what you're looking for, what the team you hire for is working on, how do you expect to make a good impression on a possible candidate? So it really doesn't matter in which field you work for this. What matters is that you understand the basic concepts of the roles you are working on and not just looking at buzzwords. You don't have to be a specialist. Honest, you can't be. It's not achievable next to a full-time job as a recruiter. But simple courses on the work or even just what I used to do in the beginning, just go to Wikipedia and just try to understand what it actually does. Talk to your engineers, not just the hiring manager. Talk to the engineers if you get the chance. And I know for agency recruiters, this is a little bit harder, but sometimes you have to play that connection a little bit. If you have the good connection with the hiring manager or the recruiter on the team, make sure that you get the right information from them. It's not about the buzzwords. It's about what they do with it, because otherwise you're using them in the wrong way. So this will help you with your sourcing, your interviewing, and it will be a very important base for you personalizing your outreach. It's a DDR of buzzwords. So let's start with this before we even start to talk about outreach, right? Simply because this will be at the core of a good message and will be important for the rest. So before your next session, I dare you to talk to your hiring manager and your hiring team about the nuances in what you are looking for. Sit down with them, look at profiles together, source together, look at the buzzwords and how they tie into projects that the team is running or wants to run. And don't just accept that information. Don't just say, I know that, okay, that's good. Ask why a skill is needed, how the skill is used. It will help you with your search and your outreach. So I mentioned this a few times. Read, don't scan. Now, this is going to cost you time. I know we're going to talk a little bit about it later on. This is going to cost you time. But do you remember the DevOps engineer example? In principle, that's a job that does not exist unless that person actually engineers what DevOps should look like. So it's a philosophy. However, often the company has no better name for what the engineer does. So they use the title. And this happens in a lot of fields where they just use a convenient title. So when you look at it, you can also find DevOps as a skill in automation engineers, CI/CD engineers, cloud developers, site reliability engineers, and way more, because it's a mindset you can use in different fields. Same goes for leadership roles. In one company, a lead has a certain specialism skill set, like a tech lead. In another company, they lead people. And in yet another company, they lead efforts, projects. But they all have the same name. They're a lead. So the key is to read past the job title and actually look at what the person did. Skill sets, they can be used in different ways or scenarios. So, like I said, with the technical part, a person can use coding language to build simple scripts or build complete applications or programs with that same language. They can be using the language to troubleshoot. So just read and not write code, and they can even never have actually built something from scratch, but just iterated on it. But the skill name is still the same. So you really have to dive into the profile or maybe into their GitHub or something like that to actually see what they did with it. In engineering, it's quite simple. Most people will share their GitHub profile with you or something like that. In other fields, it might be a little bit harder. But if you're talking to marketing people, if you're talking to people in design, you can actually look at their portfolios. So there's also a part about the non-essential information. And this is the key to stand out. When you actually read a profile, you'll learn what somebody actually does or care about. Don't just look at the profile summary or the last 2 jobs and that's it. Look beyond the obvious and scroll down, click on the link on the profile, learn about what they're doing, but also what they care about. I would encourage you to read and not just scan. The benefit of reading is that you do not only find the right person that you want to approach, but you gain valuable information that you can actually use in your outreach. And that's you standing out of the crowd. That's you being that one recruiter that they will remember in a good way. And I mentioned this before, and this is especially for the people that are working international. If you recruit globally, this is super important for you. This is the one crucial thing where a lot of the time it goes wrong. Approaching people differs per country and per job. Where in the software developer world, a very loose and open communication is acceptable. This is different in, say, the legal or banking world, where communication is more formal. So we just discussed reading versus scanning and how it helps finding the right person and using that information in your outreach. But there's a third reason why I encourage you to read the profile. The language they use in the profile will help you with your approach. I will have some examples later. Don't worry about that, but this really helps you. When you read a person's profile, most of the time you'll be able to see how they communicate. I explicitly say most of the time, as a lot of people still copy paste their job description to their profile and that's it. But the careful reader will still take advantage of their language. When we reach out to prospects, we need to take a few things in account. Formal versus informal. So this is both a personal and cultural preference, which you can take in account. When a person is very formal on their profile, and especially on LinkedIn, for instance, they have a summary. And it's a safe bet to approach them in a similar fashion as they write on their profile. However, if the person has a fun profile picture, very sparkling way of writing, making some jokes in the summary, using natural language, use that approach. Mimic it if you feel comfortable with it. But mimic it. Use that approach to them, either in a similar fashion or refer to something that stood out to you. Is the person talking about how they're a unicorn? Implement it in your outreach. Is the person making jokes? Start with a joke or a reference to that joke. These adjustments make sure that people not only accept your outreach, but also like the outreach. And that's the beginning of a relationship that you need to build. If they don't like your outreach, they're basically in the not knowing part of who you are. If they like your outreach, you showed something of yourself. And people want to connect to people. So make it personal. They will remember you. And luck happens that today I was approached, and this is no joke, I was approached by a candidate that I wrote an email a year ago with some jokes, with some stuff in there because it resonates with her profile. And she actually pinged, hey, listen, I remembered you. I'm open for a new job now. So this is not short-term thinking. This is long-term thinking. This is a strategy. Everybody you approach now, if you leave a good impression, they will come back to you in the end. On the cultural side, you'll need to take in account that in some countries, one doesn't start with hi or hey, but with dear Mark in my case, or dear Miss last name. Germany, India, China are famous for a more formal approach. So your hi message might not be welcome. Read their profiles. On the other side of the spectrum, US, Netherlands, South Africa, and some other countries, The hi message works like a charm. They don't really care about those formal approaches. Try to find hints on their profile, and if not sure, refer to the style that a country operates in. So I mentioned where a country operates in because we're not talking about ethnicity or race. We're talking about countries. People adjust to the country they live in. So in our global market, this can be very different. People are everywhere now. They can relocate now. People work from home. People work from anywhere. So make sure that you read their profile, and if not, default to where they are living at the moment. And the last one, personal versus professional preference. This is a nice one to think about, and I mentioned this a little bit as well. What do you feel comfortable? What do you actually feel comfortable with? If you are comfortable with very formal and professional communication and really feel awkward going for the hi message or hey message and starting with maybe a fun remark on a profile or something else, be careful with doing it. Always try to be yourself. Anything else will shine through and it might be counterproductive. Authenticity is always the key. So if you want to try it, if you want to try a different kind of message, get a colleague to proofread it. Talk to a colleague, show them your messages. If it's out of your comfort zone, always share it before you do it. That's the biggest key, because authenticity is key. They will see it if it's not authentic. So my tip in all cases, it's important to stay you and be aware of the cultural differences that can be very delicate. Talk to your community, talk to your colleagues, your hiring managers, your hiring teams, learn from them how to communicate with them. Go on meetings and see how they communicate with each other and try to copy that. Try to learn from that. If you master this, your outreach will be so much better and so much more welcome. And that's an important thing. So make it all about them. This is another thing that we as recruiters tend to do. Outreach is not about what you need or want. I know you're looking for somebody that's perfect for your company. You want them to join your company, but it's not about you. It's about them. They are the ones that have a job, probably, because otherwise they would have applied to you. So it's not about what you need. It's about what they need. Are they really looking for you to approach them? So it's not anymore about the job description plus the benefits that you have to offer them, because they're getting enough, right? Be different. In normal life, you introduce yourself to people you've never met, and emails and phone calls for prospects are not different. Make a short but good pitch, a personal pitch. And this is the key. Pitch yourself, not just the company. It's about you. You need to build that connection with them. Make sure that they know who you are. And I don't mean just your job title. Honestly, I never use the word recruiter or recruiting in any of my outreach emails. Never, ever. I work on a team and I'm looking for people. You also need to know what you're sourcing for. What's the job beyond the job description? It's all about what they're looking for in the job, which sometimes you can deduct from reading the profile, reading, not scanning. It's about what kind of challenge you can provide them. The projects that they will work on, the problems that they will get to solve, the impact that they can have on a team, the growth, all those kind of things, all those things that are not in a job description. They might like that. So give them that information, add value to them instead of just ask them, do you know one A, do you know B, do you know C? If so, I want to talk to you. It's the other way around. We have an option for you where you're going to work on A, B, and C. What do you think? And this is a very important one. Why am I interested in you? Why am I approaching you as a candidate? Don't just say the person will be a great fit or an excellent match. Often you get emails with, hey, Mark, you have an excellent profile for this role. You don't know that. You actually don't know that. So don't just say that a person will be a great fit. Tell them why they would be great. Because, hey, you're a great fit, or hey, you're an excellent person for this company, or whatever, is an empty thing unless you have proof. Why do you think they are great? And never say you're great because, I think you're great because you don't know for sure. Give them the details, recognize their accomplishments, mention things that you like about their experience or profile. Make them feel special. It's still the same, but if I give you 10 messages, 10 the same messages, and one says, I really like you because of this, this, and this, you're going to read that one instead of, hey, I really like you, that's it. So it's all about those special and sometimes unwritten benefits, the way you approach people. And so they can look forward to something. It's not about the ping pong tables or the Friday night drinks, which people tend to hate because it puts social pressure on them. It's about the things that make people belong. In my case, I can tell people about the flexibility we have to truly own our day. I can tell them how collaborative our teams are. I can tell them about the trust that the company puts into you. Share your company values, share your company feelings, but make it personal. Don't just say, hey, this is how we work. No, share what you actually like about your job or what the people like about their jobs if you're in an agency side. Make sure that you ask that recruiter or hiring manager that you're working with, why do people still work there? Why do they still want to be there? Because that's the part that's intriguing for candidates. They don't want to know I'm getting more money. Yes, that works a little bit, but then you're getting somebody for the short notice. If you want to have them for a longer period of time, you have to add value for them, and then you will get value from them. So my tip is, you have a problem to solve. It's you that has a problem to solve, not them. They really didn't ask for you to reach out to them. So don't ask for an action from them without showing that you've put effort in their outreach. Give first and then ask. This is short and sweet one. If it smells like one, it probably is one. And this is templates. There's music, nice. There's a story about the best outreach where it's 80% templating and 20% making it personal. People spot that from miles away. You can smell any template, and don't forget, people talk and share. So getting a templated messages basically says, I don't care about you, you're just a number. It's pray and pray, as some people call it. It's send out to 100 people, hoping that somebody will respond. But that's the message that will never get you that super senior, super experienced person that you want to look for. So be careful with your templates. Don't make it 80%. Don't even make it 30%. Be very careful with how much you template. And I know it's going to cost you time. We're going to talk about that a little bit. There's also a thing about sending templates out to multiple prospects and not checking if they're on one team. Ouch. This actually happened a few times. I had the best of fun when a recruiter reached out to multiple people in my department with a light template. And that's professional suicide. The whole team was talking about it. Everybody was like, yeah, I'm not going to do this because they obviously don't care about me. They just want somebody from this company. We're probably one of 100. Don't forget, people want to feel special. If you approach 2 people in one team, make it very personal. Don't forget, it's your reputation on the line, not that of your company. That's the second damage you're going to make. The first damage is you as a person, because the person that you're approaching right now can be your hiring manager in the future. So be very careful with how you approach people. Make it personal. Show how good you are. And you will get those results back. If not now, then in the future. So when writing outreaches, check which one lands well. Instead of making templates, just check which style lands well. And then make a few notes. I use sticky notes. I put them on sticky notes, and just certain lines that I know will land well, I use them. So it's not a template. It's just copy paste from all different kind of things. And then the rest is just writing it by yourself. Use those kind of things. And there's another thing. And I beg you to not do this. Don't send job descriptions in your outreach. You're asking them to take an action and go to a website. Don't do it. There are 2 reasons. One is you're asking them for an action, and 2, in your follow-up, you can share it. So you have something to share, add value in your second conversation or your email or whatever. Don't use it in the beginning, because it leaves a room for, hey, I don't like the job description. Well, you've busted your ass to make a beautiful outreach. They read the job description and think like, but you already sold them on your message. So it's actually canceling that part, because to be honest, most job descriptions, they're not too pretty. They're not too good. And candidates, trust me, when I see a job description or when I saw a job description, I would think, they're asking for this. They probably want 80% of it. So they will accept 60% of it. So I will apply. So if they have that mindset, just don't send it to them. And I know it's a story. I know it's not true in every case, but still, that's the thing that lives in the world. Nobody thinks that a job description is 100% right. So give them different values, give them different information, transform it. Pick some lines from the job description and transform them a little bit into actual sentences and put them in your outreach. Don't ask them to click a link. If you want to send links, here comes. Send some links about the team, about the company, not the boring stuff like the about page from the company, but try to motivate some engineers or whoever you're dealing with to write a short blog post, even with you, just so you can share that you can share how amazing it is at the company or why this role is special. Be different than the rest. It's social media, blog posts, even podcasts. Share those little small snippets. I even do it for my own outreach. When I reach out to an engineer, I will always add a short link to a podcast of mine or a short link to a blog that I wrote together with my company to make sure that they also know who I am. Now, this is a beautiful thing. When I talk about people, when I talk to people, 9 out of 10 people that responded to me actually clicked at least one of my links. And none of them was a job description. We did some A/B testing and the job description was almost never ticked. But the other ones were. So make sure you have some extra value. Again, add value to the candidate. Don't ask for value back before you do that. So the art of reaching out. It's not that hard. This is the secret sauce. This is how you get the perfect candidate for you. Be human. Be normal. But put time in it. And now you might say, hold on. This takes a lot of time. I don't have that. And I know that in some companies, you have to reach out to X amount of people within X amount of time. And to be honest, I had that once where I actually had a discussion with my own manager because he wanted me to reach out to 50 people for a job that there were only 13 people in the world. Combat that. 50 outreaches or whatever number they ask from you, it doesn't make sense because you want to have high quality and not just spray and pray. And it's very simple. It will take more time in the beginning, but if you understand the role better, that means better sourcing. Better sourcing means better candidates, means a better pipeline. A better pipeline means less time spent on reaching out to the wrong people. Less time reaching out to the wrong people means less outreach rejections. So no more absolute nothing anymore. They will actually say yes or no, I'm not interested. Less calls with the wrong people because you actually know what you're looking for. And less angry people because you approach them for the wrong job. And this is why a lot of people don't like recruiters. They approach them for the wrong job. This ties into that buzzword thing. Understand what you're looking for. All that means that you have more time for better outreach. You have more time for better calls with the right people. And you will actually get a good name as a recruiter. You will actually be that recruiter that people say, I want to work with that person again. Or, hey, I remember this person. I will check with them if they have a job for me. That's all that stuff leads to happy candidates, but also happy hiring managers. In the end, a happy you. There's nothing more beautiful than getting a message from a candidate that says, hey, listen, this is the best outreach I've ever received. Thank you so much. I want to have a chat. Even if they don't say, I want to have a chat, even if they say, sorry, but I'm not interested, at least you know that your message landed well. And that's so nice. I can't describe the feeling, but it's so important that you understand that even if I was a candidate, it's so nice to get a dedicated message. And I will respond back to you. Thank you for making it dedicated. And a lot of people do this as well. They will thank you for finally standing out of the crowd. So let's go to some examples to help you a little bit. I never mentioned that I'm a recruiter. It's that simple. It's in the bottom because this is a LinkedIn message, but on the top, it's never there. But I mentioned why I would like to have a chat with them. I called out the stack that they're working with and why. I also showed them that I actually read their profile. I made it open, right? So I said, hey, the last move, more into architectural role, but also saw some SRE were coming back in that role. So I already mentioned that I understand they're moving and they might not be interested. So I offered them a chat to see what they're exactly looking for. And of course, if we can offer that. And then there's some links, but nothing about the job. Everything about what makes it great to work for the company. Nothing about the job. This one also works really well. A colleague of mine watched your Twitch streams and pinged me on your profile. That led me to checking out your videos, followed by your Twitter. What I did there is not only say a colleague of mine thinks you're great, but I also explicitly told them, I checked out your videos. I followed your Twitter. I spent time. I spent effort. I'm interested. And then I made a small joke about a warlock thing. So he made a comment on this profile about people walking to work in work clothes and not sweating. So they must be warlocks. So I actually used that in this message. This again shows that I've put effort in and I've read it. And this was actually a comment that I got back from him. Hey, you're one of the first recruiters that actually read my profile. And on the technical side, listen, I already showed that I watch his videos on Twitter. So no more details, but a small ask. I wanted to know what he was into, what he wanted to see, and what he had. And then the links, and even a link about me with my story to make it more personal. Right? Now, there are a few things that you can do. Depending on the language that they use, you can use, I said, I hope to hear from you soon, because he was a very polite writing person. When he was speaking, super polite. So you do this. But in some cases, your call to action is different. And you just say, let's chat soon, or let's talk soon. It's when you form the sentence in a way that they can't say no or can't doubt it, that often works, depending on your audience. This is a beautiful one. My colleague heard good things about you from the team at whatever company. And what I did is I used my team, but I also show how much I trust my colleagues. And this actually says something about your company. This says that I'm collaborating with them, not just, hey, this is a team that we're hiring for. It actually shows that you know the team. And then I highlighted why I'm interested in them. I added some personal info. So I mentioned, as a speaker myself, I know how much time and effort it takes to blog, speak to conferences. So I really love the passion and dedication. So this is a two-sided thing. One, it shows that I'm reading. Two, it shows a little bit of my interest, but I'm telling them they're passionate and dedicated. Nice to hear, right? It's very simple. Those tiny tweaks make a message really land well. And then the issue was that on the profile, I didn't really see which kind of leadership they wanted. And I was lucky I had both open. So I gave them high-level information of the multiple position. And I was super honest. I don't know where your desire lies. This is me adding value. I want to give you value, but I don't know which value. So let's talk. And while they know our products, I still added some links just because it's about the company, it's about the culture, and it's not about the job. And this is the last one, but this is the one that I really like. Once in a while, you go that extra mile. Once in a while, you see a profile with a person wearing a unicorn hoodie, making jokes on the summary, talking about cat herding, about animals, people actively contributing to the world. So I found that on LinkedIn down by interest and some links that the person had. I only clicked 2 of them, really quickly read them. That's it. But I understood what the person was looking for. So I actually mimicked that. I copied their style and their approach and I approached them. And the response was, you're the first recruiter in ages I actually respond to. I love the message and you made me laugh. What else do you want? They responded and you gave them a good feeling. Now, the cat herding thing is a thing. In some profiles, especially engineering, you will see that they will put Easter eggs in there. If you don't read them and you don't find the Easter egg, they won't respond. So always read a profile. There are a lot of people doing this. And it's small things like if you want to contact me, talk about cat herding. And it's somewhere in the job descriptions or somewhere in the experience. It's super weird, but it works because they know who actually reads it. So sometimes have left with them. So all the examples that I mentioned are all quite senior candidates that get approached by multiple recruiters every day of the week. And all of them reply with compliments about the message, and all of them accept my talk or my screen. 3 of them were hired. So what's my message? Am I super great at writing emails? No, it's not that high quality, right? But it's personal. I'm dedicated to them. I'm giving them value. The only thing that I ask in the end is for a chat. I didn't ask what they're doing. I didn't ask if they have certain skills. I added value to them. I told them, this is what I have for you. And that's what I want to do. That's how I get feedback. And if this just would work, yep. This is basically it. Thanks a lot for listening. Maybe we have some time for questions. If not, I would like to invite you for some questions on LinkedIn. Just ping me if you have them. Listen to my podcast. It's Deubel's Talks, or just go to my website. There's a lot of more content about this, but the basic message of this whole thing is be human, be personal, be honest, and give value to them. Thanks.
Thanks a lot, Mark. I'm totally agree with you. From my experience, sometimes sources trying to make numbers and we totally forget about personal touch, but sometimes we try to personalize our messages more and record even some videos, personalized videos, and we receive much more feedback from candidates, from much more responses. It really works. Thank you very much. And we had some questions.
Of course.
What do you think about using some emojis or GIFs in your outreaches?
I'm not a big fan of them. So this is the thing. Again, read their profile, see if they're into it. If they're not doing it, don't do it, because not everybody thinks it's professional. So this is the reading versus scanning part again. There are no universal answers on most of the questions that people ask, because it depends on the person you're reaching out to. So if you want to use an emoticon, if you want to use a smiley, check if they actually have something on the profile doing that. If they don't do it. It's that simple. Another thing is a cultural thing is exclamation marks. I know in the US they love them, but in EMEA we're thinking like, hey, are you yelling at me? Because it's like, you're great, so it really depends on the culture as well. So be very careful with using those kind of things, because it depends on your audience. It's always depending on your audience.
Thank you. And one question, guys are wondering if it's possible to share slides of your presentation with your examples.
Yes, that's possible. Just ping me on LinkedIn or something like that. I can even share it with you, Olga, and you can distribute it. I don't mind. Yes, I can. Now, the beautiful thing is the examples, they won't give you answers, right? Don't try to replicate them, because they only worked on that candidate. They will never work on another candidate. So the rest helps, but the examples are only there to explain to you why I did it. It's not a golden solution. It's never a golden solution. Depends on your candidate.
Yeah, sure. And one more question I see in the chat. What is your average conversion rate out of 100 reach outs, for example? They are curious.
I'm quite proud to say that I'm reaching 70, 75. In this time, it's a little bit harder. I'm going to be very fair with you, because a lot of people are very afraid to actually jump ship. However, they will still reply back to me and say, hey, thanks for the message, but no thanks. And that's the part that people forget. It's not about the conversion rate. It's about the response rate. Because the conversion rate is nice for now, but the response rate will actually tell you if that person is ever coming back to you in the future. It's not always about now. It's building that relationship. Like I said, with the example from the person today, after a year, they remembered me because of my outreach. That's 2 things. That's really terrible, to be honest, because that means that they don't get a lot of good outreach. And the other thing is that it actually worked. So if you reach out to people, don't always think about, I need that conversion rate. No, think about the impact that you get on those people. The numbers will get there, as long as you actually spend time of it and be personal with it. As soon as you start templating, yes, you will get a response rate, but it's not going to be good.
Yeah, sure. And one question, personal from
Come
me.
on.
I'm wondering if you are still scheduling a call with candidate, for example, if they say that they are not interested in this particular opportunity, but sometimes will be curious in a few months, for example, in some opportunity. Do you still think that it's maybe a case to schedule a call to discuss what's interesting for this candidate, or you're not doing this like that?
It depends. It depends on workload. It depends on so many factors. It depends on how much information they at that moment provide to you. So if you reach out to them and they say, hey, listen, I want to have a call about maybe future opportunities, then I'm first going to ask, what are you looking for? So I'm going to show interest again. What are you actually looking for before I get on the call? And I'm going to be very honest. What are you looking for? Because before we get on a call, I might even waste your time because we might not have that. So if you can give me a little bit of a hint what you're looking for, I'm more than happy to schedule a call. Or in some cases, I can redirect them to another recruiter that is actually in that direction, right? So, and this is not about being lazy, but this is about adding value to them. If you say, yes, let's hop on a call, but you're the wrong person to speak with, then you have to get them on another call again, 2 calls. Well, you could have done it by 1 question and 1 call. So it really depends on how they come back and what they want from you, what they're asking from you. So add value, even those small things, add value. Say, okay, cool. So you want to talk. What do you want to talk about exactly? Where are your wishes? What do you want to go to? Because it might be your colleague and not you.
One more question, very interesting one. For example, if the candidate is relevant according to their skills, for example, in profile, but there is no additional info, no links to GitHub, and there is no info from to do personalization from, what would you recommend to do in this case?
You can always find something. To be fair, you can always find something. There's no person in the world that has nothing except for their LinkedIn, because if they're on LinkedIn or something else, they're somewhere else as well. So, but if you really have issues with what would I write, add value. Hey, this is what this is me. This is the jobs or the company that I have. These are the challenges that I have for you. Are you interested? Because you need to know the skills, but if they don't have anything there, if they don't have the things that you can personalize, just add value to them and just say, there's not much on your profile, so I'm just guessing this, but this is why I'm looking for you. You can't say, hey, I really like these and these skills, but you can say, I think because you have these skills, you might be fit for a job that we have. This is what we can offer you. Are you interested? So you're adding value. This is what we can offer you, instead of trying to find out if they can do it. So I see something in India, you have to call people to tell them you sent them an email. Not kidding. Well, I disagree. Yes, some cases. I hired a lot in India, and it's a tough market. I'm going to be very honest. It's a tough market. But I just email them and they respond. Again, because it's personal. And it's even the headline. Don't forget that a lot of people send out the headline. Do you want to talk about a job or anything else? Introduce yourself and make your headline shine. Make it differently instead of contractor role. I don't know, SRE. That doesn't stick with people. And I see a lot of questions. This is fun. So if I see an email and a phone number, which option would you use to reach out to this person? Depends. Are they in the same time zone? Phone maybe. If they're not in the same time zone, email. So this is another thing. You don't know if they're working at the moment or what they're doing at that moment. You have no clue on what's happening in their life. So send an email and ask them, what's a good time for you? Again, you're adding value because you're interested in what the time is and what time is best for them, instead of just asking anything.
And for today, we have like a tendency that a lot of, because of remote hiring, people have a lot of offers.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just don't notice your subject line, your LinkedIn connection. What would you recommend? Maybe what way we should use more, like in mail or email? How to highlight your offer? In terms of outreach, maybe.
It again, it depends, and this is a beautiful thing of outreach, right? You have to understand your market. There's no clear answer there because it depends on your market. What kind of engineers are there? What kind of salespeople are there? Are they high demand? Because yes, they might be getting more emails or whatever, but you don't know where they are. If you are looking at somebody and you feel like, so for instance, I had a great engineer. He was on GitHub and he was on LinkedIn. So he's going to be spammed because he was really special. And he was classified as a diversity hire. So they would diversify the team. That means that everybody's hunting them. To be honest, in tech, if you are an underrepresented group, you're going to be hunted. So instead of using those two channels, I actually went to a channel, Twitch, where he was on, and approached him via Twitch. Because then I know that I'm the only one. So it really depends who are you going to approach, where are they on, and select the channel that you will probably be the only one.
Yeah. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. I think that everyone received some new information that definitely will help in our future work. Thank you for your time. Thank you for joining, everyone.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for the question, people, because that's the fun part of this, right? It's the presentation is okay, but the interaction with people, that's the most fun part. So thanks for the questions. Thanks for inviting me, Olga, and Dimi, really nice. And Nofar, hi there. Just needed to call you out. I just love her. Thanks all. Have an amazing morning, evening, afternoon, and reach out to me on LinkedIn. Listen to my podcast. There's so much more we can do to be amazing recruiters. Thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.